How can we find the raw, unvarnished truth about China, free from ideology or propaganda from either side? It's a question I think a lot of us would like answered because so much of the discussions about China at the moment are so heavily politicised. Very often either China is demonised as a bad authoritarian state, threatening the good liberal world order, or it's idealised as a strong socialist state that we can pin our hopes for the future on, particularly now that the West seems to be falling apart. Where can we go for a perspective that avoids both of these? This question was sent in by a listener to the podcast Politics Theory Other, which I often listen to. The guest answering was Richard Seymour. He's a writer and political commentator well known on the left in the UK. Here's the answer he gave.
The listener says, how can we find the raw and varnished truth about China, free from ideology or propaganda from either side?
Nowhere.
But fortunately, he didn't leave it there. What I'll do now is first show you what he said, and second, I'll show you where you can go to actually find resources. Seymour's first point is that you're not going to find anyone anywhere, whether they actually move in political circles or not, who doesn't already have some kind of ideology. That is, a set of assumptions about how the world works that will give a particular slant on how they interpret what they see. I certainly have this, and so do you.
Yeah. I'm not being a smart ass, this is just a basic epistemological principle. You're not going to find a value-free science or history or politics. And even if you find someone that has, as I like to put it, no illusions in either Washington or Beijing, you won't find someone who doesn't have some basic Weltanschauung or ideology or body of proprietary theory that gets in the way of observation.
Then he talks about some stuff on critical methods of reading, which is pretty interesting, but I won't go into here. Then he gets to his actual answer, which is about prioritising the standpoint of the proletariat. In other words, listen to what the workers are saying.
I think the basic argument that the proletariat has a better vantage point for seeing the dirty truth in a situation that flows directly from its world historical context, I think is still serviceable up to a point. I think the proletariat, like oppressed groups, sees the dirty truth of the situation better than anyone, and that's quite important. Now, there really isn't a proletariat today, not in the sense that it existed in the early 20th century. There are various class forces that could, in some unknown future, form part of a proletarian movement. We don't know. But my point would be, don't look for the perfect unblemished source or the perfect theory, but possibly try taking your cue from the standpoint of the working class, and you will get closer to the reality. So if we're talking about China, have a look at what the Chinese working class is up to when they're able to do anything. Have a look at what their experiences are like, and consider what their point of view might be on any particular declaration from the state or from the entrepreneurs and capitalists who basically wield political authority there. And you'll get closer to the reality. That's how I would approach it.
So there you have it. The proletariat sees the dirty truth of the situation better than anyone. It's true that there's really no clear-cut single group that makes up the working class in China, but there is lots of worker activism of various kinds going on. So if we think that Seymour is basically right here, and I think he probably is, where specifically can we look? He doesn't say. So I will. Here are 3 suggestions for where to look to learn more about Chinese labour and various forms of labour activism in China. All of these are in English and accessible online. I'll post the links under this video so you can look them up afterwards if you want to. First of all, Chuang, which actually I've mentioned before on this channel. Chuang is an international communist collective. On their website they publish writings on working class issues in China, often from a global perspective. Many of these articles are by Chinese workers and activists, translated into English and published anonymously. If you visit their site, this page might be a good place to start. Here they present their views on some big important questions which will give you an idea of where they're coming from. Here's their view of socialism in China. China is only socialist insofar as the word socialism has become utterly bankrupt. Second, China Labour Bulletin. This is an organisation in Hong Kong which supports Chinese workers. They publish newsletters and reports on labour issues in both Chinese and English, and they actively provide support in certain cases, like filing formal complaints against companies where workers' rights have been violated. They also have great maps like this strike map, which records strikes all over the country with their dates, location, and information on what the dispute is about. Finally, if you want a good understanding of the history of labour, how it's been organised, and a history of workers' struggles in China, I recommend this great book, Proletarian China, A Century of Chinese Labour. It will take you through chronologically by chapter, from the founding of the Communist Party in 1921 all the way through to contemporary labour issues today. Again, it's available open access online. You can download the whole thing or you can download each chapter separately. I have to declare an interest. I have a chapter in here on the household registration system, that's the hukou system. But as you can see, mine is just one of many chapters and they're just a few pages long, so each one should be pretty easy to read. Now, if you're interested, here is the other video on this channel where I talk about Chuang and discuss China's current labour issues more generally. It's part of a commentary on one of Richard Wolff's videos. It should be showing up at the bottom of your screens now, but if it isn't, I'll post the link in the description below this video. Thank you for watching.